before all this, I don't think I even knew I was faking it. Like, whenever you say, Tanya, like women white knuckling through life, like that's how I imagined myself. Like literally gripping onto what I thought was good. And yeah, it was really hard. Like, I lost my father when I was really young and said to myself at 5 years old, I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to take care of my mother and my sister. And that affected many areas of my life. I ran away. I ran away from my life. I had gotten divorced. I didn't know who I was. I had no boundaries, little coping skills, very lost, bad friendships. And in my mind, just picking a country on the map and leaving, to me, it was going to fix all my problems. And it was going to fix me at the same time. The first thing I remember noticing was how much I literally shoved away my emotions. Sadness, doubts, shame, like regrets, fear. And I would try so hard to mask those with like false positivity and everything's gonna be okay and I'm strong, I'm gonna get through this. And I was literally shutting down a huge portion of myself. And I didn't realize. I realized I had never been truly vulnerable before, even with like my ex-husband, with my family, and with you. I was like, it took time. And in that, there were moments where I was ashamed of my thinking patterns and then sharing that and then thinking, she's gonna think I'm a total weirdo. I just want to say, like, especially from watching your podcast, so many women were going through such similar things. It's so easy to feel like alone and isolated in it. We don't want to be perceived as weak. We just need to like come together.
And we're here.
We're live.
We're back. And we have someone new with us today.
Hello.
Hi, Claire.
Hi.
I'm very happy to be here.
I am so thrilled to have you here. Mariah and I were talking about this yesterday and today. It feels like a milestone moment for the podcast because you're officially our first guest. Hopefully the first of many guests, but it's a big deal to have a guest on the show. So thank you. Thank you for being here and sharing in this milestone moment with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I was thinking your guys' podcast has been the highlight of mine every week. So yeah, I'm just so excited to be here and be a part of it and share. And
Have you had some favorite moments?
I was trying to think of this, and I feel like every episode is getting better and better. And every episode I'm just like, have like new revelation of such good information. So I don't have a favorites.
No favorite
They're all
moment,
my
but they're all
favorite.
good.
Yeah, all of them.
Well, that's a great endorsement. So for our friend who's listening, I just want to give a quick introduction. You know Mariah, you know me, but Claire, who's Claire? She is a stranger to you, maybe, or maybe you know her even better than we do. But for the sake of the podcast, Claire actually just completed her Living Beautifully journey. We walked together for, I believe it was a year and 9 months. I can honestly say that I've been coaching women for 5 years, and I truly believe that every woman who comes to me gets exactly what she's ready for. But Claire by far is the woman that I have witnessed have the most transformation ever. Like, ever. And Mariah, you know me, I don't flatter people. Yes, she walked with me for a year and 9 months. That in and of itself says a lot. And it wasn't because she had a lot of resistance along the way. There wasn't a lot of resistance at all. It was because she was so hungry for everything that she could get from it. And she just wanted to suck the marrow out of the experience. So it was such a joy to walk the journey with you, Claire, and to see, even this morning when I was getting ready for the day and just being prayerful about what the day held and how we were going to be on this call together, I kept thinking about how in early days you would say things like, I just don't know how to communicate. I just don't know how to express myself. And I'm like, here she is, full circle moment. Here
Yeah.
you are 2 years later almost. And as our listener is going to experience from you, girl, you express yourself so beautifully. So we had
Oh,
to have her on the podcast because Claire and I did her exit interview a couple of weeks ago and we were both bawling our eyes out. And
yeah.
I was just like, women need to hear your story. There's so much hope in your story. So many women will be able to relate to your story. Please, please, Claire, come on the podcast. And she really didn't even have to think about it. She just said yes, which again, that was like a big, bold move for you. Old Claire would never have done that. So,
No, no. Thank you. Yeah. Since this journey, I have done other speaking things like teaching classes at my work, things that I only ever dreamed of for myself. And even a year ago, I probably would have been like, I can't do it. I want to do it, but I can't do it. And now it's just like the doors opening, doors closing, and doors opening, and trusting that process because that has been happening to me. And I feel like I'm ready for it now instead of just dreaming of it or wanting it. I can do it. And I had to go through all the steps. And I couldn't skip the steps like I wanted to do in the past, like I
Yeah.
tried to do.
Mariah, can you relate to that one? You chuckled.
Yeah, I mean, totally, because I feel like I had the same issue, and the whole thing about being a good communicator, I remember, Tanya, you had me make word art that literally said, "I am a good communicator," because what we say about ourselves, we start to reinforce and believe the more we say
Yeah.
it, and so I struggle with that too, and I've come a long way as well, but yeah, it's just it seems way easier to not go through all the hard steps and the confrontation with yourself and just fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
So good.
And
So
I
good.
just want to say before all this, I don't think I even knew I was faking it. It was just like whenever you say, Tanya, women white knuckling through life, that's how I imagined myself. Literally gripping on to what I thought was good. And yeah, it was really hard. And now it just feels like I just have an inner peace. And not that everything is sunshine and rainbows. My circumstances are actually very similar to what they were before I started this journey, but I've learned to have an inner peace in myself and acceptance, and it feels so good.
So good. Let's start at the very beginning and go through where you were at, what life looked like, what led you to saying yes to the Living Beautifully journey. What
Yeah,
did that journey look like? What were some highs? What were some lows? How has it impacted you? And then now on the other side. And so I don't want to say too much up front because I want to guide our friend through the whole experience. But I want to read something that you wrote because it literally made me cry. And I actually read it to my parents because I was so moved by how well you wrote it. And I was like, you have to hear how Claire wrote her testimony. And I'm just going to read the beginning of it. And this is what you wrote. You said, the other side of being trapped is freedom. The other side of dark is light. The other side of hopelessness is hope. I'm so grateful to be writing this from the other side.
yeah.
So let's take a minute and think back to 2.5 years ago. What was going on in your life at that time? What did life look like for Claire?
So much. Yeah, I had just moved back home into my parents' house from living 3.5 years in Australia and like building what I thought was my dream life, which in that time came crashing down. So I retreated to back home, thinking that everything was just going to be easier and lighter. And it was actually so the opposite. I quickly regretted my decision moving home. Now, my 94-year-old grandmother couldn't live alone anymore. So I had to kind of step into this role of being a caretaker, which was actually quite easy for me because I had been a caretaker most of my life in different aspects. I helped move her in with my parents. My body was depleted physically. I was emotionally depleted. I didn't have a lot of hope. After being home for 1 month, I was really depressed and really it sunk in. I just left my dream life to come back. And at 36 years old, I'm living in my childhood bedroom, don't have a job, surrounded by the most unhealthy relationships I had had in my life that I had run from my whole life. It's like the volcano exploded and I didn't even realize it. And I was so lost. All my friendships had changed. I was choosing sobriety, going through that process. I realized I had come back and I had changed so much, and everyone around me was the exact same. And I felt like an alien in my own home. And had like a little bit of drive. I sought therapy. I wanted to change. I knew I couldn't continue on feeling the way I was feeling, but I didn't know how to do it. But yeah, I was really struggling.
Yeah. And you had gone to Australia because
I ran away from my life. I had gotten divorced from my partner that I was with my entire 20s. I didn't know who I was. I had no boundaries, little coping skills, bad friendships. And in my mind, just picking a country on the map and leaving was going to fix all my problems. And it was going to fix me at the same time. And I learned in that process, I did grow a lot in areas that I needed to grow in, but the inner me, my soul was the exact same, and it was dealing with the same issues that I had been dealing with my entire life.
yeah, because wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah. The environment didn't fix my problems like I thought it would.
Right. Mariah?
No, yeah, I'm just listening to that and it's just so good. I can't relate to the circumstantial thing, but I can totally relate to like, running away from the problem. I hit a point where I left from where I'm at now, right? I'm in Vallejo. I left Vallejo because I was running away from the problem. It felt like so much. Granted, I moved up towards the Sacramento area and I learned a lot and I grew so much and I found Jesus and everything. Like I'm so thankful for my time up there, but like I was also running and then I ended up moving back down here and I dreaded it. But I realized it was always within me.
Yeah.
I think this is so common in our culture. I see it a lot in even in women in their middle age. Women in their 40s and 50s will hit this hard wall where they wake up one day and they go, "I'm done. How did this become my life?" They will blow up their marriages, they will blow up their lives, they will convince themselves that the problem is their circumstances, and so if I get divorced, I'll be happier. If I'm in a relationship with somebody else, I'll be happier. If I make these external changes, if I lose the weight, if I get the Botox, if I get the boob job, if I do these external things, then I will feel internally better. And it might appease the pressure for a time. It might give us a little bit of ease from the discomfort for a moment, but it's very fleeting. And then the dissatisfaction resurfaces and we go, well, now what can I do? And so there is such a focus on changing our outside and Nothing that we change on our outside is going to give us the internal peace, the internal contentment, the internal security and confidence that we are longing for and that we very much need.
Yeah.
So I think all of us can relate to that because I think it's just common in our society in general. And if you're listening, I'm sure that you, if you're being honest with yourself and took a moment to reflect, I would encourage you to ask yourself, maybe where in my life have I tried to run from things instead of learn how to face them? Where in my life am I convincing myself that the problem is outside of myself instead of what Mariah said so beautifully earlier, confronting myself, right? So that's so good, Claire. So you had been married to the man that you had dated through, all through your 20s. You got divorced. Life completely imploded for you over here. And you thought, screw this. I'm going to do a do-over. Australia sounds like the dream. You hopped on a plane. You flew to a foreign country. You landed right before the freaking COVID shutdowns. And you lived an adventure while you were out there. And you did things that you never would have had the courage to do when you were here, and you pushed yourself. And I think God is so merciful and redemptive, and he will mercifully meet us along the way, and he will use what we give him. When he's in pursuit of us, he'll use every little thing to draw us to himself. Like Mariah was trying to run away, she ended up running right into him, and that's what happened for you in Australia, isn't it?
Yeah. I had I had always had faith, but I like to say faith in God, but I feel like on the stove, it was on simmer. And you know how they say you run to God when you need him the most? That was 100% for me. And yeah, I started going to him saying, I can't do this. I am surrounded by fires. I need you. And it's like the fires got bigger and bigger, but in a different way. The drama was bigger before it came down.
So when you came back from things blew up in Australia, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So things started to erupt because, like you said, nothing in your soul had changed. So even though you were in a foreign country with new people, new work, new relationship, new everything, your inner core programming was still the same. So you were
Yeah.
doing the same things, you were perceiving things through the same lens. And so over the course of time, things started to get disrupted in
Yeah.
Australia also, and it got to the point where you thought, "Forget it, forget this, I need another do-over, I need to start again," and so you came back to the Sacramento area.
Yeah.
And what our listener won't know, and I don't even know if Mariah knows this, is Claire and I actually have known each other for, gosh, 12 years?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
12 years
Mhm.
ago we met
Yeah.
because she's a hairstylist, a hairdresser,
I like
cosmetologist.
hairstylist.
She's a hairstylist, and she was working at a salon that I was a receptionist for when I was married and in my second marriage and going through my second divorce. So Claire saw me at one of my lowest points. And then I actually did her makeup for her wedding because I'm a makeup artist. If you didn't get that memo, I did makeup for a long time. And then my life completely fell apart. She ended up getting married and having all of her struggles. And I stopped working at the salon and we lost touch. We just drifted apart. And then 10 years later, I think to the year, I'm planning to have a stay-at-home day on a Sunday. I'm like, I'm not going to go to church today. I'm going to have a stay-at-home day. And I literally felt like Jesus grabbed me by the shirt, dragged me to the church parking lot. I remember sitting in the church parking lot thinking, why am I here? I don't even want to be here. How did I get here? I just want to be home. I don't want to be here. Walking into the church service, sitting through the church service, walking out, and all of a sudden I hear somebody call my name. Hey, Tanya. And I turn around, da 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 da, and this crowd's part. And there's Claire. And I'm like, Claire, what are you doing here? Do you remember that day?
I do. And I feel like I have to tell the story of how I got there.
Tell.
So I had found this church that I loved in Australia. I learned so much. My faith like developed so much. And I was talking to one of the girls and I said, I'm going to move back home to Sacramento, California. I hope I find a church that like I love there. And she goes, I have a friend that travels there sometimes. And she has this church that she really likes. And in my mind, I was like, there's like a million churches in Sacramento. It could be anywhere. And she pulls it up on Instagram and I see Folsom, California. And I was like, that's where I'm moving. That's literally the town I'm moving to. So I felt so convicted. I was like, I have to go to this church. And the second service, I saw you.
Our paths cross. So we hung out a few times. Now you were going through a really hard patch. So oftentimes when we're going through hard patches, we have a tendency to want to isolate. You don't typically want to. I don't know about you, but for me, if I'm having a rough day or a rough week or in rough seasons that I've been through, the last thing I want to do is go show up and have coffee with somebody new because I don't want to be fake and act like everything's fine. And I don't want to be vulnerable and messy and have that be your first impression of me. Claire and I hung out a few times here and there. And I had really encouraged you, go get some counseling. You need to do the inner work, go get some counseling. And I remember one day you were over at my house talking about how counseling was going. You want to share a little bit about what you were experiencing with that?
Yeah, I think at that time I was going to talk therapy, and I had tried this in the past for other things, and I never stuck with it. So this time I thought, well, it didn't work in the past because I didn't stick with it. So this time I'm really going to stick with it. And I was going every 2 weeks, and I had gone for quite a few months. At that time, I really was struggling to express myself. So a lot of the session, I felt like I sat there in silence and she was trying to pull information out of me. And I remember leaving thinking, I wish she would recommend me a book or something. I knew I needed more, but I didn't know what that looked like, if it existed. And then I expressed this to you, and you're like, I can help you.
Yeah. Well, I remember we would like hang out and you'd be like, I get more out of my time with you than my therapist. Because I'd
Yeah.
ask you the hard questions and I'd share with you a different perspective and I kind of push you a little bit. And because I'm not a therapist, I have permission to do all those things. I don't have a license that I can lose. And I remember asking you, look, has your therapist talked to you about this? And you're like, no. And I'm like, what? And so I remember sitting with it and really wrestling with it because I felt like the Lord pressed it on my heart to offer you to work with you. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to work with you because I wanted us to be friends. And I was in a time in my life where I really wanted friends. I didn't need more clients. I needed more female friendships that I could hang out with. My own selfish need was a friendship at that time. And I remember feeling like I really don't want her to become a client. I really was hoping she was going to become a friend. And I had to work that out with the Lord. And He helped me see that this was going to be the best dynamic for both of us. But then it was the vulnerability of coming to you with that and saying, hey, instead of being friends, why don't we do life coaching together for a season?
Yeah. And I remember I said no.
What?
I know. Because same thing, you had said, basically, there's gonna have to be boundaries. Our friendship is gonna have to go to the wayside, and we'll have this coaching relationship. And at the same time, I also was like, I had just lost all my friends. I really like her. I want to be her friend as well. And yeah, but
What,
I'm so glad it turned out the way it did.
what made you change your mind?
I remember thinking about it and thinking and feeling like I had nothing to lose. I had no other option. I was desperate. I felt like my sadness was literally coming out of my pores. And I could see when we were hanging out that I wasn't being a present friend. I wasn't a good friend. I was so overcome by what I was going through. And I thought, well, that's got to change
Yeah.
because I have been through that before, that feeling. There's not much room for laughter, growth,
Right.
everything when you are so in your cocoon of misery.
Right. No. So we started working together and really quickly you were like, this is different.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first workbook you got? Do you remember?
I think it was like awareness, just
Mhm.
emotional awareness and stillness,
Mhm. The introduction
which
to
I had never done
mindfulness.
that before.
Remember Mariah with
Yes.
the eye gazing and the doodling, and you
Yep.
remember this one? There were the
Yeah.
6 different stillness practices to just be with yourself and then notice what comes up, what thoughts come up, what emotions come up, what sensations come up. I actually have a client that I met with today, and it was just our second appointment together. So she was coming back with her report on how this workbook had gone for her. And she's like,
Oh my gosh.
I have a really hard time being still. Like I kept checking my clock. Like I couldn't even do this. Like I kept like, I probably checked my timer 8 times in the 4 minutes. Like just a really hard time being still. So the funny thing is we both didn't want to start the coaching relationship together because we were afraid we didn't want to lose the friendship. But looking back at it, and we've talked about this together before, because I would always joke with her, like, if you still want to be my friend when we're done working together. But we have hung out a few times outside of coaching in the last several months. And the time that we spend with each other, we've become more equals with each other. We can both hold space for one another. Like the quality of friendship that we can create today, I think far supersedes any type of friendship that we could have both settled for 2 years ago,
Yeah.
because you've grown also in your self-awareness and you've done that internal work, and so there's a depth to both of us and we can meet each other in that place now. So when you went through the program, what were some things about it that really surprised you?
The first thing I remember really noticing was how much myself, and I know other women do this, but how much I literally shoved away my emotions. I had like a list of the bad emotions in my head that I didn't want to feel, like sadness, doubts, shame, regret, fear. And I would try so hard to mask those with false positivity and everything's going to be okay. And I'm strong. I'm going to get through this. And I was literally like shutting down a huge portion of myself. And I didn't realize, but I could feel that inner turmoil. And then once you kind of expressed that and I could see that, I feel like that's when I really started to learn about myself and who I was as a person. And I wanted to know about myself. It opened up curiosity. You know how you have to be comfortable sitting alone with yourself? I feel like I could do that physically, but not mentally.
Mm.
I moved to another country. I was alone a lot, but I was always distracting myself or hiding parts of myself. So I feel like I've learned to actually sit with the uncomfortable now. No matter what I'm feeling, stop suppressing.
Right. Yeah. Mariah, I know it's okay for me to share this about your journey. And maybe Mariah can speak into it first, and then Claire, you can speak into it if you have anything to add. But one of the things you actually And not every woman has this type of coping mechanism specifically, but you both did a lot of emotional escapism. You both would create these daydreams of a better world, a better relationship, a better you, and you would spend a lot of your time fantasizing, daydreaming about these lives, these situations. And as we worked together, we realized that it was a form of distraction. It was a form of coping. The term that I use is emotional escapism. So you weren't physically fleeing a situation, but you were physically staying in a situation and daydreaming about how the situation could be different someday.
Yeah. I remember specifically talking about that because it was something that I thought was just how I was, like a part of me, who I am. I have a very, very active imagination. However, once if I did try to sit with myself and feel the emotions, my mind would just start going and start imagining things. And sometimes it would be me imagining the better stuff, like escaping, but then also it would also be used for imagining the worst case scenarios, like absolutely the worst, and would either distract me or spiral me out. And that I feel like is the self-sabotage if I recognized it and still allowed it to happen, but it had become a habit, but I thought it was normal.
Right. You thought that was just how you were always going to be. It was just the way that you were designed. It was just the way that your mind worked.
Mhm.
You didn't realize that it was an unhealthy habit that you had developed along the way to help you cope with the difficulties of life that you didn't have the skills to navigate through.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that, Claire?
Yeah, I so agree. I thought it was just a part of me, and I had always said, "Oh, I live in the past." My mind was always in the past. I was always focused on that, and I don't think I thought it was normal, but I just remember thinking, "This is just what I do. This is how I am."
Yeah.
Right. And you went through a significant trauma in your early childhood, and it robbed you from a lot. And so a lot of the emotional fantasies that you had were, what if this had been different? What if this hadn't happened? Like,
Huh.
which as we began to do the work together, when you started to really be able to sit with what had happened, face it, allow the Holy Spirit to reframe it, accept it, release it. You no longer had that lingering desire or need to romanticize these ideas of how life could have been different if only this had not happened to me. Like, how could my life had played out differently if I hadn't gone through this? Because you got to a point of total acceptance.
Yeah, it's wild. I lost my father when I was really young, and I had, yeah, taken on kind of the weight. I feel like I said to myself at 5 years old, "I'm gonna take care of my family. I'm gonna take care of my mother and my sister." And that affected many areas of my life. And then once we focused on that time in my life, which I remember only came up 8 or 9 months into our session. So in my mind, I had thought, "Oh, that happened when I was 5 years old. I was so young, I can hardly remember. It doesn't affect me." But then as we dug more into it, I really saw, wow, I'm living out of the hurts and the lies that I kind of grabbed onto at that age. So yeah, processing it and all that and learning, oh, I do this maybe because of that. It came like layers of acceptance, and I could accept that. And then I learned to accept other areas of my life.
Yeah,
That
because
was,
once you accept the least acceptable thing that's happened to you, it's easy to start accepting the other things. The other thing is, believing the lies that you had started believing in that experience. Those lies informed what you believed about your identity. One of the things that you and I did a lot together was identity work. We went into those, who do you believe you are, and what's the truth and what's not the truth? So for
Yeah.
you at 5 years old to take on that family caregiver, I'm the family caregiver. I'm the responsible one because and again, this is not always reality. This is perceived reality. This is the lens of a 5-year-old version of Claire who is living in a traumatic and grief ridden reality and internalizing it through her 5-year-old lens, which is very self centric, right? So we're not saying this is fact. We're just saying this was her experience and we validate the experience and we bring healing into that place. But your experience was, mom was grieving. You didn't want to add to mom's burden and all of that kind of stuff. And so you just took on the mother role. You tried to make sure mom was okay. You tried to make sure your little sister was okay. And you were 5 years old. And
Oh,
so earlier on in our call, you were talking about how when you moved back from Australia, you took on the caregiver role with your grandmother and you hinted at this, which was not a big deal because that's how I lived my life. And even in your marriage, you took on the caretaker role in your marriage. And so, because that's who you believed you were, that was what you believed your role was in this life. This is who I am. I'm the one
yeah.
who takes care of everybody else at the neglect of myself, at the expense of myself. And so,
Yeah.
then within that, we also started to address a lot of codependent tendencies.
Yeah. I put other people, and I think so many women can relate to this. You put other people's needs before yourself. And I think there's an element of like satisfaction in that. I would see someone else serving them and now they're happy. And I would be like, they're happy. So now I'm happy. But I really learned in my life after so long of that, you kind of get to your threshold and then you can't do it anymore.
Wow.
And then I started crumbling. In our coaching, that's when I really saw how much I had emotionally, physically neglected myself. And I really saw the cost of that, which I couldn't see beforehand. I just saw nothing's working. All these people I'm pouring into don't appreciate me. Why am I feeling so burnt out all the time? And I really relied on myself to be like, keep going, keep going. And it's like the flame, it's going to fizzle out.
Yeah. Mariah, I saw you. You had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Claire, did you ever notice a difference in the way that you cared for people then versus now? Because you were running out of a codependent state then, but like, what would you say the differences you noticed, if you did notice any difference?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've learned to care for myself first. You know that saying when the airplane's going down and you have to put the mask on yourself before you can help others? I think we joke about that, but it's so real. And because I've learned that I have needs,
That was
it's my
huge for
job.
you. That was
Yes.
huge for her. I remember when you got that needs list and you were like, "These are valid needs? I didn't know this was a need."
Yeah. And that it's our job to tend to our needs. And that I feel like also that wraps into the identity, just learning that we're important, like our own taking care of ourselves, because I've learned more how to do that. And I'm still working at it so much, but that has given me more patience. It has given me less frustration, less short fuse. I can listen better. I used to think I was a really good listener. I was not. Now I'm a much better listener, active listener. There's a
Mm.
difference between a listener and an active listener. I can hold more space for friends, for my family. And now, for example, helping care for my grandmother. It's not my whole life. It is not my everything. I am so much more than that. And caring for my grandmother is one thing that I'm doing in this season of my life. And I've learned to see it as a blessing versus times I would be like, this is the right thing to do, but I'm frustrated. So now, because it's like the lens has shifted.
Oh, that's so good. So the quality of care that you're and the way that you're able to show up for people has definitely changed. from what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that makes the Living Beautifully program unique is, even in difficult there were some really difficult relationships, and you alluded to that earlier. But we never focused on those people. I've had clients come in and they're like, "My therapist said this person is a narcissist." And I'm like, "Well, did your therapist ever meet this person? Have they done sessions with this person? Who are they to diagnose someone they've never met?" So we don't focus on trying to figure out other people here. That's not what we ever focus on. We always try to figure out how to better understand people, how to not take things so personally, how to
Yeah.
not have codependent tendencies. And the goal is always that we become really generous with our boundaries and with our love. So there is no cut this person out, cancel this person out. Mind you, again, we're not talking about abusive situations here, right? We're just talking about hurt people hurting people, broken people breaking people. We're not talking about somebody who's in an abuse. That's a very different situation. But for you, Claire, one of the things that you experienced was two of your closest relationships with your family members have grown by leaps and bounds through the process of you healing. And what I love to tell the women that I serve who are in difficult or painful relationships, whether it's with a child, whether it's with a spouse, whether it's with a friend, whether it's with a parent, is that you can't change that person. But as you work on yourself, you can create a new dynamic of how you relate with one another. And that's what you've come to experience, Claire, is your
Yeah.
your your journey of learning to love yourself had this overflow effect of now you're able to better love others. You were always a caring person, but that care has become more pure. You were always a woman who wanted to serve others, but that service has become more pure. And so where there once was, I'm doing this because I should do it, I'm doing this because this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm doing this to get validation. I'm doing this to feel valued. All of that is gone. And now you're doing it because you genuinely want to. And you're doing it in a way that also serves you and does not neglect you.
Yeah. Definitely. It's so much more balance and hopeful in future relationships also.
So, were there any moments in your journey when you wanted to quit?
I wouldn't say I wanted to quit, but I remember we had talked about doing this for minimum a year, and that year approached. And I remember, especially at this time, I was really struggling with this element of control. I was trying to still control so many things in my life. So naturally, I thought, okay, it's been 1 year. We should be done now. Like, I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, we should probably be done. And we had had a conversation about it, and I remember you had expressed we should probably keep going for a bit, and I was disappointed. I was disappointed in myself because I still was really hard on myself, very critical, very much in a place of if I work hard at this, then it's going to be like this, and I need to do this, and I should have done this. And I remember there was an element of, well, maybe I'm just not good enough at this. That's why I haven't reached where I should be at a year. So I struggled with the timeline thing.
And those are all the reasons why I didn't want to launch her because she was still battling the need to control. She was still being critical of herself. She was still having distorted thinking. She had come a long way. You had come such a long way. But I knew that if we had ended our journey there, you would have stayed in in a state of being that was constantly just trying to manage the dysfunction.
Yeah.
And my goal is not to help women learn how to manage their dysfunction better. My goal is transformation because I believe in transformation. I believe in wholeness. I believe in freedom. And so there are certain markers that I look for in a woman before I feel like she's ready to continue the journey and continue the process on her own. It's not about arriving anywhere, right? Because none of us here are fully free and none of us here are fully whole. All of us here are still in process, but we are all living a lifestyle of progression in that process. And we've gotten to a point where we've fully embodied these new habits. They've become a lifestyle for us. It's the way of being for us. So it's not about managing dysfunction. Now it's about continuing to expand and progress in our self awareness, in our wholeness, in our freedom as we continue through life. And life keeps throwing little wrenches along the way. And that was a big one. Before you share, I want to hear if Mariah has anything to say about this, but I know for you, you got to a really good place in the end. I remember in the end, you were like, but I don't want to finish. You're like, but I'm okay. There's no rush. Like, am I really ready though? But you
Yeah.
did get to a point where you would do well. For example, you'd come back and you would say, I caught myself. I was feeling really angry. I'm not thinking of a specific example here. I'm just using a general example. Okay, Claire, but you'd come back and you'd say, I was just really feeling very angry and I was aware of that. And I'd be like, okay. And what did you do with that? You were so proud of yourself that you'd gotten aware because we'd been working on awareness. And then once you'd hit that point, I'd be like, okay. And what did you do with that? Nothing. And then you'd be like, "I thought I had this figured out by now." I'm like,
It's like,
"There's
I'm
10
feeling
steps.
that,
I
but
was
I'm only on
only
step 3.
but I felt it." Yeah, but did you examine it? Did you understand it? Did you connect with the meaning you were attaching to the thing that was creating this emotional response within you? And in the beginning, you would get discouraged by that. You'd be like, "Oh, I did this wrong. I didn't do it well enough." And we really had to like help through the process of repetition and showing up every week and think also being modeled what that patience and compassion looks like because you'd be so hard on you. And I'd be like, there's no need to be hard on yourself here.
Yeah.
You're learning something new. Be kind to
Yeah.
yourself. And you'd be like, be kind to myself. Like, what? Can you relate to that, Mariah, in your journey of putting pressure on yourself to achieve or accomplish certain results in a certain way in a certain time?
Yes, I definitely think so. I think I had more pressure on myself to have the right answers. And because my trigger and deep wounding of feeling stupid and the shame behind that, that is something that I hugely struggled with and I still struggle with it from time to time. But yeah, that was my thing was, oh gosh, I have to find the right answer. Like I have to get it right. I have to not tell you what you want to hear, but that's kind of how it felt. Like I have to have what she's looking for or I'm not doing it right also. So, yeah, I
Were
mean, I
there,
think I was always pretty prompt with timing deadlines.
oh, you still are to this day, but I honestly love that about you.
Too, thanks.
But I wouldn't be mad at you if you were late. Were there times, Mariah, in our journey together that I really challenged you and it was hard to take?
Yes. I can't remember specifically, but I feel like there was one time where you kind of recognized that I was, like, starting to get complacent. I think it was towards the end. It was towards the end when I was about to launch, and I think I actually started to just coast. I was like, "Okay, yeah, do the work, we're almost done, just get it done and we'll be done." But I wasn't doing the work as much anymore. So I didn't even end up launching in my year either, and I can relate to your feeling, like, a little bit disappointed because I was like, "Oh, I was looking forward to that year," but obviously I did need more, and it was so good, but, yeah, that was one thing I remember you challenged me on is, like,
What about you, Claire? Were there moments in your journey that you felt called out, or maybe you felt exposed or seen in a way that was a little unsettling in some way?
Yeah, both of those. So I feel like it was 3 or 4 times where I was doing the work, like you said, Mariah, but I was not putting my heart into it, and you could totally see in our session, and you called me out on it, and you can't remember what you said exactly, but you were basically like, "You gotta do more." In my mind, I was like, I need to put my heart into this. I can't just sit back and coast. Like, take that step further. I'm here, I'm feeling the emotion, but there's more beyond that, and you need to go beyond that. And then also, I realized I had never been truly, truly vulnerable before. Even with my ex-husband, with my family, and with you, it took time. And in that, there were moments where I was ashamed of my thinking patterns, my distorted thinking, and then sharing that and then thinking, she's gonna think I'm a total weirdo. But you always responded in the most compassionate, loving, non judgmental, like, okay, here you are. How are we going to move on from this? And yeah, you modeled how I wanted to love myself. And it was like so beautiful to experience.
I'm like getting emotional because I just know so many women struggle with shame. And I used to struggle with shame really badly as well. And shame just wants to keep all of those things hidden. But as long as they're hidden, they control your life.
Yeah.
And as long as you're living hidden, you're never going to feel known. You're never going to feel seen. You're never going to feel accepted. You're never going to feel intimacy. You're never going to feel loved. You're never going to feel those things because there are parts of yourself that you're keeping hidden. And so I just know firsthand the freedom that comes when you bring those things into the light. I declared war on shame probably about 8 or 9 years ago, and because I was like, shame is not my portion. There is no shame or condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. So I actually don't have to tolerate shame in my life. I have to learn how to get it out of my life. It no longer can have room in my life. And that was a process that took work. It took a lot of self-confrontation. It took a lot of compassionate inquiry. It took a lot of doing the opposite of what I felt was the right thing to do. The right thing to do is don't tell anybody about this. And I learned that one of my tactile approaches towards warring on shame in my life was when the voice of shame would tell me, don't tell anybody about this. Don't let them know. I would do the opposite. I would go and tell. I would go and let them know. I would do the opposite. And it was scary. I remember at a visceral level, like your body is like, because you're afraid of rejection and you're afraid of judgment and you're afraid of all those things. But part of the coaching experience that I think most women don't even realize is happening is it's totally psychological and it has a neurobiological effect on you. There are these mirror neurons that our brains have, and they'll reflect back. We will learn what we are being modeled. We will learn what we are watching. That's why sometimes you'll be with somebody and you'll mirror them. There's these mirror neurons in our biology, in our brain. And so I am fully present and very intentional with the space I create for a client, even when I'm rattling them, even when I'm grabbing you by the shoulders and I'm shaking you up real hard. That's not a reaction. That's intentional. I'm doing that to shock you out of something. But the point is you get modeled what kindness looks like. You get modeled what compassion looks like. You get modeled what being curious and non-judgmental towards yourself looks like. And then because you have that ideally we would get this as children. Ideally, we would have this from our parents, and our mirror neurons would pick up on that. And that's how we would learn to treat ourselves, because we would see our parents treating themselves that way, each other that way, and us. But that's not what happens for the majority of us. And so we have to learn it another way. And one of the approaches that I integrate into my practice, and this is not work you guys do, this is the work that I do as your coach, is I mirror for you what a healthy relationship with yourself can look like by being that voice in your life. And over time, that my voice of kindness and those questions and the gentle nudging and the compassion and all of those things that you're talking about that create the safe space for you to open up, begin to become your own thought process, the way that you start to relate with yourself. You begin to mirror that for yourself, and you begin to mirror that with others. So there's major ripple effects. So you guys didn't know that, huh? I let
No, but
you
it
in
makes
on one of my
sense.
little secrets, one of my tactile secrets. Just kidding. But it's so important. This is why I struggle so much with people who just want to pray everything away, is because, God created us spirit, soul, and body. And the more that we understand about the way that God designed us, the more intentional we can steward ourselves, the more intentional we can be in how we communicate with and relate to and with others. I think just putting everything on, I'm praying God will do this. It's in God's hands. It oftentimes, to me, it just feels like a big old cop out. Like, no, God created us with such intricate wisdom. And the more that I've learned about that, I remember somebody in my church one time wrote me this prophetic letter, and she basically was like, the self-help books won't help if everything is in God. And I was just like, okay, that's your level of understanding. And I'm sure you mean really well. I genuinely believe you mean well. But I know that this would not come from the Lord, because those self-help books actually do help, because they teach me to understand God's design. They teach me how to think differently. They teach me how to practically do the things that Jesus tells us to do. So it's the balance of both. It's understanding ourselves as spirit beings. It's understanding ourselves psychologically, somatically. The more we understand ourselves, the more curious we become about ourselves, the more we begin to discover who God created us to be, and the more in alignment we begin to live from that place. I think that is my greatest hope for any woman who goes through the Living Beautifully program or experiences anything that we create, is that she'll leave that experience. It's like a little chiropractic adjustment for your soul, right? Just a little, okay, you're a little bit more aligned with the truth about what's meant for your life, with the truth about who you are.
Yeah. I just I feel like because I've learned to compassionately speak to myself, hold space for myself, it changed my relationship with God. Beforehand, I didn't know him. I didn't know um his compassionate side. And I think because I experienced that, that has branched into my relationship with him, and it's so much more beautiful and loving than I ever thought it could be. And it's not this have to pray, you have to do this, you have to do this. Like, I kind of thought it was that before, and I would get mad at myself when I wasn't reaching those standards. And it's become so much more heartfelt than I ever realized. And it takes that compassion, experiencing that truly, I feel like, to recognize that in your relationship with Jesus. And it feels beautiful.
I'm getting so emotional. It is so beautiful. Mariah, it's just, I think because I know how many women need this,
Yeah.
like, I just know how many women are settling in their lives for things that they don't need to settle for. And if they could somehow find the courage to take a chance on themselves, just like you guys did, just like I did, and learn another way, everything can change for them because everything changed for us. We were one way and now we're another. And you said it beautifully, Claire. You said, I'm still the same person, but I'm a more free, more whole, more refined version of myself, a more, I think you said, radiant version of myself.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
I was speaking with somebody actually last night, and it was so funny. And she had shared about how she had struggled with anxiety really badly, like crippling anxiety for like 10 years. And then she'd gotten really good at managing it. And the way that she was talking about her anxiety, to me, it sounded like, man, this woman has really befriended her anxiety. She was like, I don't think I'd get out of bed in the morning without it. I don't think I would accomplish the things I'm doing without it. The way that she was talking about her anxiety, I was like, this doesn't feel right because our portion is peace. Peace is our portion. Like anxiety shouldn't be our motivating force. Peace is our motivating force in the kingdom of God, right? And I was poking around at her a little bit because you know me, I'm pokey Miss Pokey. And long story short, she had an epiphany. Of course, I'm praying, I'm praying, Holy Spirit, help her see the truth, right? Because if she believes that this is something that is just a part of her and that she's just going to live with it, then that's going to be her reality. Because we're always going to live out what we believe. So if I believe, well, this is just the way that I am, then this is just the way that you're going to be. So I'm of course I'm speaking with her and I'm asking her questions, but I'm praying because I know only the Holy Spirit can actually illuminate the truth for her. And all of a sudden I'm sharing a little bit of my story with her and she goes, I just had an epiphany. I'm like, thank you, Holy Spirit. She said, I've befriended my anxiety. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. She gets it. I'm like, yeah, tell me about that. Meanwhile, I've been trying to tell this to this woman for hours, but I'm like, tell me about that. And so long story short, she goes, thank you so much. I'm gonna explore this and I'm gonna work on it. I didn't realize that I don't have to just manage my anxiety, that I can be free from it. And now I'm gonna try to figure out how to be free from it. And I said, why are you gonna try to figure that out on your own when there's somebody who can guide you through it? And I think this is the other thing that people struggle with is we feel like we just need to do it on our own. I just need to power through and figure it out on my own. I just need to read the right book or listen to the right podcast and the thing is that we cannot do it on our own. Or maybe we can, but it's going to take us a lot longer. I mean, Mariah in maybe 13, maybe 14 months, right? Claire in 19 months, you guys accomplished what it took me almost a decade to do. Because you had a Sherpa, you had a guide, you had somebody who had gone before you and who had taken many others up the mountain before you and who understood the elevation changes, when it's time to push, when it's time to relax, right? What was normal? No, this is totally normal. This is a part of the process. Trust the process. When you're going, this can't be right. I've been crying for weeks. This can't be right. That's not everybody's experience. But some women who have just been bottling up their sadness, they need to release it all. And it comes up and they're crying a lot. They're like, I never cried. And now I'm crying every day over nothing. I'm like, the soul just wants to release it. Let it out. You don't even, you need that guide. You need that person who knows what you don't know so that you can learn from them. You can follow them. They can set the pace for you. It's really important to do that. If you guys hadn't gone through the Living Beautifully experience, where do you think you would be today?
You
Claire,
go
you wanna go?
first.
Okay. Um, Oh, man, I don't even, like
Oof, this is a big one for you, Mariah. This one might bring tears for
yes.
me.
It's
Where would
like
you be without living beautifully, Mariah?
I feel like there's so many different avenues, because same with Claire, I know I wanted more, but I didn't know how to get there, but at the same time, I didn't want to do the work because, like you said, it was challenging for us before coaching. You offered to be my mentor for free, and I was like, "Nah." Push away, get away. It was just so scary for me, and it was even a struggle to decide to do coaching in the first place, But I did. Well, anyways, I think, first of all, I don't think I'd be married. I don't think I would have a kid. I don't know where I would be living, to be honest. I don't know what I would be doing with my life. There's so many decisions that I made out of the broken place that I was in, like everything in my life. The relationships I chose, the way I showed up for myself, barely, and then for others, the coping mechanisms, the masks. I was not honest with myself. It just led me down so many different paths of destruction, and it was just feeling sorry for myself. So, like, I don't know where I would be, but I can't imagine I would be in a very great place. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Um, I might have been somewhere maybe a little better, who knows, but not to where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
It's so true. I think it would take so much longer because I even tried therapy or counseling at one point, and remember she told me she laughed and she said, "Oh, you should be a therapist." I was like, "But what? I need help." She was not helping me dig deep and do the soul work. It was all just like surface brain level stuff. So I even tried something like that and that didn't help. Maybe I would have not done therapy ever again because of that experience. So who knows? I really don't know. But
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
And you could have still gotten married and you could have still had a baby, but I don't think you would be showing up. I mean, you're not just married with a kid, you're happily married and genuinely connected with your husband. He's your best
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
And you're a very present, purposeful, peaceful mother. You are enjoying the state of your life, the season that you're in. You're not overwhelmed by it. You're not wishing for when Benny gets older. A lot of these culturally acceptable mindsets that we have around things, like the first year of marriage is the hardest. You didn't have that experience because you did a lot of the work before. So I just, even if you were married with kids, even if your circumstances were the same,
Yeah.
I don't think, like you said, you would be showing up the way that you are in them, and I don't think that you would be appreciating what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
No,
100%.
for sure. What about you, Claire?
Would have struggled a lot because when I moved back home and right when coaching came in, I was going through, I think, the hardest time of my life. And I don't even want to imagine what it would have been like without it because it got me through. I might have tried to flee again.
To be
I
living in
probably
Fiji.
I would probably be living in some random
Tropical.
place. Yeah, like I really wanted, like thought would make me happy, but in my heart, in the background, I would have been missing like my family, my sister. My sister has kids, and I would have been trying to convince myself that I was doing what was best for me. And yeah, now I can truly see the fruit of what we've learned and how I'm living, and it's not easy. But life is not easy, and you can't just run away from everything. And yeah, it's changed my inner world
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah. Well, I think it one of the results of going through the program is you develop genuine resilience and not the
Yeah.
counterfeit resilience of society, which is not actually resilience at all. It's just a hardening. It's being unbothered by things. You develop the ability to experience the fullness of life, and that includes the disappointment. That includes the confusion. That includes the heartbreak. That includes all of it. But you're not afraid of feeling it. You're not afraid of feeling pain anymore. You're not afraid of feeling disappointment or disappointing others. You're not you all of the fears that you had, you outgrow them. You evolve beyond them, and it opens you up to a full experience of life. And some people I think are afraid of that. Because they're on the other side, right? They're on the other side and they're going, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel pain. Why would I want to feel disappointment? Why would I want to feel this? Well, if you're not letting yourself feel those things, I guarantee you are not feeling peace. You are not feeling joy. You are not feeling gratitude. You are not feeling contentment. You are not feeling fulfillment. You are not feeling connected. You are not feeling loved. You are not feeling known. You are not feeling everything that is a part of a really beautiful and rich life, because you can't numb out one part of your emotional being. You numb out the entire emotional self.
I just have one memory. I remember one day I was feeling super overcome with sadness, and this was when I was still struggling to feel. And I thought by feeling the emotion, it was going to take over. I thought I was going to sit in that for forever. And I remember talking to you, and you said, just feel it. Just feel it and see what happens. So I sat there and I was like, okay, I'm going to feel this. And even after like 15 minutes, I was like, am I doing this right? I think I am. I'm just sitting in it. And it was like within the hour, it was such a profound experience, just accepting those emotions, because all the steps that you said would come next, they did come. And I didn't sit and lose myself like I thought I would have. It's such a process, and you have to be in every part of it. And once you engage in the process, you'll see, oh, this comes next. Like it starts to flow. We fight that so much. We
Yeah.
fight this step, so then we never experience the next.
Or we try to force them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what you said is beautiful. It's learning how to live in the flow, in that flow, especially as women, especially as feminine beings. Our nature is a flow nature. So when we are forcing anything, we're not actually living out of our superpower, which is flow. And so we can do it. We can power through. We can white knuckle our way. We can force it. We can fake it till we make it. But we're exhausted and miserable along the way. And we get sick. We get physically sick, mentally sick, relationally sick. Or we can learn how to flow through life. And there's a lot, not that life is easy, but there is an ease in it. Definitely.
Yeah.
For me, it was anger. For me, it was because I remember for you, you had an aversion towards admitting your sadness. You didn't want to feel your sadness because you felt like it would overtake you. And also because you had created this persona of yourself that you were the easy one to like. You were Little Miss Sunshine. I remember you said, "Oh, I'm the happy friend. I'm the easy to get along with friend." And so there was this image of yourself that you had projected for yourself in order to have connection, right? And sadness was not in alignment with that. Who wants to be friends with a sad person, right? So you had this strong aversion to accepting sadness. And I remember that conversation where you were like, "No, I'm a happy person." I'm like, "Are you really though?" Or,
Yeah.
"Are you really though?" And you were like, "Yeah." And I'm like, but are you really though? Are you really happy?" Because you were in such denial about your sadness.
Yeah.
But for me, it was anger. I was in such denial about my anger, and that's what led to my depression and my battle with suicidal ideation. I had repressed my anger for my whole life. And I remember this one moment in my life where I was driving in the car and there was this little anger monster that wanted to come up and erupt through me. And I was in this battle because I was afraid that if I let it come up, it would take over and destroy my life. I was so afraid of the anger that I carried on the inside that I fought very hard to repress it as much as I could. And it made me mentally sick. Is there an emotion that you tried to deny and repress, Mariah? She was sadness. I was anger. Shame?
Maybe you can help me figure this out because while I was thinking about it too, and I feel like I would try and suppress every emotion because I was too sensitive. Everybody always labeled me growing up as too sensitive. And so I remember I was terrified of crying. I would not let myself cry in front of nobody because I had to be the tough one. I had to be the one that didn't cry, that didn't feel hurt by other people. Like, I remember that so heavily throughout most of my life, especially it started as a young child. I would not let myself cry. And I remember when I was working with the kids. Do you remember when I had that job? And I
I
was
do.
feeling super overwhelmed
Yeah.
and I was like feeling all the emotions all at once. But I remember you really encouraged me to just sit and cry and let it just release and let the emotions flow, like all of them, because I was having so many different emotions. But once I did that, I've learned to make it a practice in my life. It's always in my mind, "Let this go, let this release. It's okay to cry." That was my thing, was not crying because of all of the emotions.
Yeah. I think if we had to pick one, tell me if I'm wrong, okay? Because 'Cause I'm not you. I don't know you better than you know yourself. I think if you had to pick one, it would be shame. Because even think about that core lie that you would fight so hard to protect yourself from, right? Which was people will think I'm stupid. Well, what's the emotion connected to that? Shame. And when
Yeah.
you would feel shame, you would get angry. You would become prideful. You became the know it all. You had to prove that you were right, even if it cost the health of the relationship. So I think for you, the emotion that you were afraid of facing the most was that shame.
Yes, that totally makes sense, and when it comes to crying, I didn't wanna be perceived as weak.
There you go.
That
Connected
makes
to
sense.
shame.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to say, especially from watching your podcasts and stuff, like so many women were going through such similar things.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to feel like alone and isolated in it. Yeah, we don't want to be perceived as weak or judgment or abandoned or all those things. And yeah, we just need to like come together.
Come
Yes.
together right now over me. Yes. Well, have you heard? You must have heard about the holding space, but that's why we started the podcast. That's why I felt like the Lord wanted me to start doing this. And this is, I mean, listen, this is not fun. Like, I mean, it is fun, but it's not like glamorous. We're putting in a lot of time and effort and energy every single week into these things. We're being so vulnerable and our hearts are to serve as many women as possible. And we're just doing it out of obedience and it's because of what you just said. It's because so many women are suffering in silence. And it's easy to listen to a true crimes mystery podcast, or it's easy to listen to celebrity interviews, or it's easy to listen to information and feel like information is power. And yet that information is not transforming hearts. It's not transforming minds. It's not transforming relationships. And so my hope for this this podcast for living beautifully is that it is really going to speak to the heart, and it's going to help shift perspective and expand paradigm. And more than anything, I think my hope and my prayer is that it's going to evoke in a woman this fire within her to stop settling for what's normal. Stop. Yes, it's normal. This is all normal. It's normal for women to have autoimmune disease. It's normal for marriages to be miserable. It's normal for people to have no attention span. It's normal for people to struggle with anxiety. All of this is normal, but it's not what we have to accept in our lives. There is another way. And so, yes, let's talk about it honestly and vulnerably and transparently because we all struggle with it. It is normal. And let's not settle for it. And so, the podcast is to encourage women and hopefully inspire women. And then the holding space starting in January is to hopefully create that space where we can start coming together and having these conversations with each other in small groups and hearing from other people their stories and testimonies and actually being guided through some of the work. Because it's one thing to hear the stories and it's one thing to hear the steps, but how many of us actually do it? Do we do the work? We got to do the work. So, yeah. And my hope is to have more friends pull up a seat at the table like you, Claire, and join us and share, because I think what you shared today is a beautiful addition to what we're creating and offering for our listener. You've shared so much. You brought a different spin on things, especially being so fresh out of your journey.
Yeah. Yeah, and that I wanted to ask you guys, or mostly Mariah, now that because you've also been through the journey, like how, because I'm still fresh and you've been out for a little bit longer, how have you continued the work and the growth and not become complacent?
Putting me
Because,
on the hot spot. No, that's good though. That's so good. No, I'm not gonna lie. There is moments where I found myself in complacency, like
yeah,
especially because I have done the work and I feel I am. I feel more whole. I feel good. I'm like good, I am enjoying my son. I'm just enjoying my marriage. I'm enjoying all the things in my circumstances. My circumstances are good, and I think I've definitely focused on that, and then I've just kind of coasted in that, but I'm still a human being with things that come up that still need constant work and need constant growth, that it doesn't stop just because, even especially if your circumstances get good, like human beings, we're just constantly going through stuff. So I found myself there for sure. But what has helped me stay in growth, first of all, is having a mentor. I 100% am in agreement with that. I mean, we've said it before here, but mentorship is so, so valuable and so important. And it's like my mentor holds me accountable because Tanya, I mean, I feel like you kind of pointed out maybe a little bit of my complacency. And that just kind of refreshes it in my mind. Being called out is like, oh yeah, like you're right. It's like a blind spot. I see that. Let me, not out of a performance, but like I don't want to be complacent, but I want to continue growing. And then also just constantly practicing mindfulness. There are moments where I do feel myself maybe like falling back into the patterns of fixating on the future things or letting my imagination run. Like, it's these things do still come up, but because I'm aware of it, I it's a continual practice of bringing my awareness back to that and then doing something about it, not just like knowing it. And then practicing ESPM self-care. I mean, we haven't talked about that really much, but like caring for myself in all the different aspects, mentally, emotionally, physically. what am I missing?
Spiritually.
Spiritually. Spiritually. Yeah. And so just being mindful of all those different aspects and of the care of myself and just continuously checking in and, talking to my mentor if there's things I'm blocked on, not processing through it on my own. And yeah, I just take from the tools that I've learned, but did I answer the question?
Yeah, totally. I feel like just learning to process and be aware, just living in that feels so good. I just want to keep writing that
Yeah, it
out.
feels real.
It feels real.
Yeah.
I saw this quote like 2 days ago and I wanted to share it today. Healing is when you stop telling the story that broke you and start living the story that rebuilt you. And it makes me emotional because I feel like I used to dwell on all the things that I felt like broke me at the beginning. And through this process, I just have so much more hope and excitement for the future, no matter what comes, even the hard times. I don't live in fear anymore. And yeah, I feel like I'm not living in the past anymore, but looking for the future, being present.
Beautiful. That's such a good quote. My gosh. Yeah.
I think also to add to what Mariah said for your question, because Mariah and I were talking about this yesterday, because she called me yesterday and she's like, I need to talk to you about some things. But you shared that even being a part of this podcast has been helpful.
Yes, definitely. What I told Tanya was I feel like it's keeping me awake because I was kind of like a little slumber, before starting this, but it's just keeping things at the forefront of my mind, because it has been a while and it's easy to kind of forget about specific things. So when we're talking about it once a week, it's keeping it in my mind. It's bringing all these things back. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that is that is something that I learned in my journey that did have an impact." And, just yeah, keeping it at the forefront.
Yeah. I think part of it is that there's that community. It's you, me, and Beth right now. This week, it's you, me, and Claire, but it's getting together once a week and talking about this deeper stuff. We're not talking about, did you watch this game or what show are you watching or what did you eat or what are you doing? We're not talking about the circumstances of our lives. We're talking about the thoughts and the emotions and the spiritual. We're talking about the deeper things with each other. So again, that's why I really encourage women to plug into the holding space. And I mean, it's totally free. We're not even trying to make money off of anybody here. This is literally an act of service. We're just creating a space for women to come. And whether it's women who have been through the life coaching program and maybe you yourself have gone like, oh, I can totally relate to Mariah. And I feel like I've gotten complacent or I got a little slumbery. Well, maybe it's because you don't have that community that like you're being able to just keep it fresh with and keep holding each other accountable. That's what the holding space is for. Come and have a refreshing, reinvigorating, refocusing 90 minutes every week with other women who are living with this level of mindfulness and intentionality. And yes, every single woman who comes to the holding space is welcome. And we are all going to be in different seasons of life, in different phases of life, in different places on our journey. We might have some who come and they're just curious and they just want to sit in the back. Sit in the back. We're all going to be on a screen, but sit in the back and lean back and just observe what's going on. What are these crazy? Is this a cult? What is this? And then you might have the people who are really excited and passionate and want to engage and share. And, there's going to be people who come on it's a good month. It's a not good month. You're on a high, you're on a low. Just come as you are. Just come as you are and be surrounded by people who can hold space with you for one another so that we can continue to progress with one another. Because if we don't have that, I think for me, Claire, The only reason why I've maintained this level of progression over the last decade of my life is because of the amount of service. I went and I worked in an inpatient home for women struggling with life controlling issues. And then I was at a group home for 2 years and I was doing distorted thinking logs with those kids at the group home and talking about the deeper stuff with those kids at the group home. And then I started my coaching business and I'm meeting with clients multiple times a day, sometimes talking about this stuff. And so, yes, it keeps it very alive and fresh. And I am a woman of integrity. So there's no way that I'm going to talk about something if I'm not living it myself. And so it keeps me accountable to myself to keep showing up this way, not just for myself, but also because of those that I'm serving and those that I'm leading. So I've always encouraged anyone who goes through the program, and I don't know how many people have actually done this, to be honest with you, but I always encourage get in a position where you can give back, even if it's like serving in a women's shelter or, if you want to come and be a part of what we're doing here at Living Beautifully or whatever, but get in community and find a way to give back. I think those are the biggest things. We get poured into and we become blessed so that we can be a blessing. You have more to give now than you ever had to give before. Don't become a stagnant source. We're meant to be a living well. Yeah. So, couple of final questions and then we'll close out. Okay.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite workbooks?
The ESPM, because that really teaches you to sit back and be like, how am I doing? Why am I feeling this way? And I feel like that practice is so nourishing and you really get to learn yourself, which, yeah, feels so good. I don't think we do that often. Many of us don't know ourselves well. So I loved that, learning that and then carrying that practice on. Distorted thinking logs, life changing. And the identity workbook, I forget the name of it, but I remember that was really impactful for me. Live Known. Is it Live Known?
That's the one on shame, fear, and control, the masks and the coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that sparked my identity journey.
Yeah. One thing we didn't talk about yet that I know we all three love to geek out on is the work that we did when it came to connecting with our femininity and more specifically understanding ourselves as women who are cyclical beings.
That
I
was
was
huge.
literally talking to Mariah yesterday and I was like, I'm on day one, which we all know here. We love day one. There's no judgment for day one. Day one is not a curse. It's not a burden. We love day one. And Mariah goes, I miss my period because she had a baby, so it hasn't come back
Oh,
yet. She's
yeah.
like, I miss my period. And I just started laughing because I was like, what women say that? Like, what women are like,
Yeah.
I miss my period.
Yeah.
Women who live the living beautifully way. That's who. So talk
Yeah.
to me about, we'll start with you, Claire, and then we'll go to Mariah and then we'll close out. But what share with me how learning what you learned about your monthly cycle, and every week we'd kind of be like, where are you at in your cycle? How are you feeling? It was kind of like this repetition, and every week you'd learn a little bit more about yourself as a cyclical being. But then we also did the feminine mystique, and you also did the body image. You did a lot of work on yourself as a feminine being and even your sexual history and all this kind of stuff. There was a lot of deep work you did with this. How has your relationship with yourself as a woman, as a feminine woman, changed?
I think that's his whole own episode. There's so much on it. I really struggled in this area at the beginning. I had had a lifetime of body shame and regret and anger and blame. And I think in learning the cycle syncing and learning how all that affects your emotions and learning to say, okay, I need to rest during this time, or this time I'm more productive, and learning that in myself, it just came with this grace over my body. My body is working for me. And this quote I'll remember for forever. My body is not a project. My body is not this like outside source that can be poked and critiqued and pushed. That whole area I really learned to appreciate. And actually, I can say I love my body for the first time ever and what she's going through. And that's life changing in itself. I was thinking about this yesterday because I work at a hair salon and I hear women all day. And I just really recognized yesterday how much self love and compassion has grown. I've grown in while others are maybe critiquing themselves or planning their next workout or how much protein they need to eat. And yeah, be healthy, like do what you need to do to be healthy. But yeah, listen, feel like learn to listen to yourself and have seasons of rest, maybe accepting that your body is growing with you and it doesn't need the whip cracked on it. And yeah, that's been huge. So valuable. So valuable for women.
Yeah. Learning to tune back into the body's wisdom and stop outsourcing the directions on how you're supposed to take care of your body because this is what worked for somebody else. Or
Yeah.
stop placing the demands on your body just because somebody else can do those things or because you need to push through or power through or yeah. What about you, Mariah?
The cycle syncing, I really loved learning about that. I love learning about how your body runs in a cycle and each part of that cycle, your body requires different things, requires different nutrients, requires different rest and activity levels, requires different not ways for you to show up, but different things that you can pay attention to. There's like so many different aspects of our being. And it's just helped me look at it from, I guess I would say, God's perspective, like the way He designed us. We're just so unique and intricate, and we have our purpose. And I learned about mindful movement. I feel like I still kind of struggle with that, like holding expectations for how I'm gonna get fit, but not from a place of shame where I would have used to come from. 'Cause now I also look at my body as the vessel, the home of my soul and my spirit, and that's just a part of the being of me. It's my body, my soul, my spirit, all these things. I've learned to care for and appreciate all those different aspects of myself as a woman and honor them and honor God through those different aspects. I just love cycle syncing. It's so great. I love learning about it. I don't know if that answers the question.
She's always sending me recipes. You're going to love this in your luteal phase. You're going to have to make this in your follicular phase. I love it. She's always sending me all the different recipes. Okay, this was so much fun. Mariah, is there anything you want to say? Any final words for Claire before we wrap up our session?
I was thinking about this all the times you were talking, but I don't know if this is encouraging to you, but I just want to point out the fact that you are such a great communicator. Like the way that you speak and the way that you put things together resonates with me at least. It seems like you describe things as a vision or as like a tangible thing that somebody can imagine for themselves. I love that. It like helps me understand the point so much better. But I recognize that in you that you are a great communicator.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. Thank
Of
you.
course.
Thank you.
And Claire, you can look right into your camera and imagine our friend who's listening, but do you have any final words you want to send our friend off with today?
Yeah, just take the leap. Take the leap. Do something for yourself and all the what ifs and the time, the money, the fear, all those things can be figured out because what you experience at the end, like, I wouldn't change anything. You figure it out and it is so worth it. And I can truly say that the future is so much brighter after this. And even in the times that we're in and everything, I have hope and excitement. I have excitement for my future relationships, future endeavors. And yeah, we'll take the leap. It's the best decision ever. I think I wrote this like I would do it over and over again.
It was such a joy to share that journey with you every step of the way.
Same.
And today feels like such a full circle moment for you and for us together because Mariah literally just validated you and your communication. And I remember, and you said this about yourself before you started coaching when you were in therapy, you were not a great communicator and you really believed that about yourself. And that's how you were the friend who listened, but you didn't share yourself much. And it's just because you didn't know how to. And you believed that that's just who you were. But I think how beautiful that at the end of this beautiful journey, this powerful, transformative journey, you get to end with this high note of coming on this little modest podcast and sharing your powerful, hopeful story in such an eloquent and inspiring way.
Yeah. Even still, I'm like, what? Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
All right, my friends, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Ciao for now.
Bye.